On that busy Friday, André, a 28-year-old black waiter, impeccably dressed and exhausted after covering 3 shifts in a row, knew he couldn't afford a single mistake. The manager had already warned him. Any slip-up would earn him a written warning. What he didn't know was that, later that night, a simple gesture to comfort a crying child would set in motion a chain of events that would change his life forever and quietly impress someone powerful enough to transform it. Patricia, the manager, walked through the dining room like an arrogant captain on the deck of a golden ship. Her heels echoed like hammers on the marble floor, and her voice cut through the air with curt commands. André, table 12 wants a risotto gluten-free. Pay attention. No excuses like last time. He took a deep breath. It was always him. Always. André grabbed the order firmly, gave the customer a polite smile, and headed to the kitchen. On his way back, discreetly wiping his hands on the cloth in his pocket, he saw a modest-looking man entering with a little girl, about 6 years old. The man wore dark jeans, a light blue dress shirt without visible branding, and a discreet cap that had parted his face. He held the girl's hand as she bit her lip and looked around nervously. Patricia greeted them with thinly veiled disdain. "Good evening, sir. Table for 2?" He nodded without fuss. "That one in the corner, please." She placed him at one of the most hidden tables in the dining room, near the window, but far from a view of the high-paying clientele. The man thanked her. Sophia, the little girl, clung to her father's coat and curled up in her chair. André observed from a distance. Something felt off. It wasn't the man's clothes. It was the girl. Her eyes scanned the room like she was at war with the lights, the sounds, the smells. Something in her expression struck a familiar chord. He had seen that same look in his little sister during anxiety attacks as a child. The night went on, dishes flying out of the kitchen, waiters rushing. André did his best to stay calm, until, suddenly, a high-pitched scream shattered the refined atmosphere of the dining room. Daddy? No. Stop. I want to go home." Sophia was crying loudly, eyes full of tears, her body shaking. Guests turned to stare. The man tried to soothe her in a soft voice, but she slammed her hands on the table, knocking over a glass of water. Patricia swooped in like a hawk. "Sir, please control your daughter. This is a sophisticated environment." The man looked up at her, calm but with a glint of disapproval. He was about to speak when André stepped in first. "Excuse me, may I try something?" Patricia scoffed. "André, it's not your job to babysit. Get back to your tables." But he was already kneeling beside the girl. "Hey, princess, it's really loud in here, huh?" Sophia didn't answer. She was hyperventilating. "Can I show you a magic trick? I promise it won't make any noise." She looked at him for a moment. Tears were still falling, but she stopped screaming. André pulled a cloth napkin from his pocket and began folding it carefully. In seconds, he shaped it into a flower. He held it out to her. "This is called a peace flower. It helps keep the noise away. Want to hold it?" Sophia gently took the flower. Her sobs softened to sniffles. Her red eyes were now focused on the folded napkin like it was a jewel. "Want me to stay a little? I can tell you a quiet story about when I was little and my sister didn't like places like this either." The father watched silently. His face revealed nothing, but his eyes were locked on André with unusual intensity. "My name's André, but my sister calls me Day. If you want to call me Day, too, that's okay." The girl nodded, whispered, "Day." He smiled. From a distance, Patricia huffed and scribbled something into her warning spreadsheet. Insubordination, she'd write later. But the dining room calmed. The girl, now holding the flower in her lap, played with its fabric threads. Her father picked her up, nodded silently in thanks, and she rested her head on his shoulder, more at peace. A few minutes later, the table finished their meal. The man discreetly called André over as he was wiping down another table. "Thank you. No one's ever done that for her." André smiled, a little shy. She just needed someone to look her in the eyes. The man pulled out his wallet, removed a small bill, and along with it, discreetly handed André a business card with phone number and the name Eduardo M. Call me tomorrow, before your shift. And he walked out with the sleeping girl in his arms. André stared at the card. Puzzled, the name meant nothing to him, but he felt a chill in his stomach. He had no idea he'd just spoken to Eduardo Montenegro, founder of the Alta Vista Restaurant Group and one of the most influential hospitality moguls in the country, and that a simple cloth flower had done far more than comfort a child. The business card was tucked carefully inside André's wallet, folded between two photos, one of his sister in her technical school uniform, and another of his mother smiling with tired eyes after yet another shift as a nursing assistant. The next morning, André arrived at the restaurant 2 hours before his shift. He still wasn't sure if this was a trap, a corporate prank, or a misunderstanding. Patricia would love to know he stepped out of line to chat with a customer, but something inside him said, "Go." And he did. The dining area was quiet. Chairs were still stacked on top of tables. The floor damp from cleaning. The air smelled like vinegar and disinfectant. He walked toward the entrance and saw a black car with tinted windows slowly pull up in front of the restaurant. From the back seat stepped the same man from the previous night. Now in a gray suit, hair slicked back, no cap. Beside him stood a uniformed driver, holding the door open. André froze. "Good morning." "André," the man said, his voice now firmer, his posture straight, and a slight smile on his face. "Yes, sir. I was the one who served you last night. Your daughter, I hope she's okay." The man nodded. "Sophia's fine. She slept peacefully. The first restful night in a long time. What you did, no one's ever shown her that kind of gentleness in public. Not teachers, not doctors, not even my own staff." He extended his hand. "Apologies. Last night I was undercover. I'm Eduardo Montenegro, CEO of the Alta Vista Group." André blinked. The name now rang a bell. The break room bulletin board had a photo of him with the caption, "Visionary Founder." But he never imagined he'd meet him, let alone serve his daughter. And certainly not calm her with a napkin. "Sir, I didn't know. I just wanted to help. And that's exactly why I'm here." Eduardo pulled an envelope from his suit jacket. "Have you ever been written up here?" André hesitated. "Yes, a few times. Small stuff. Talking too much with customers. Taking a minute too long on break." "I see. The manager here. Patricia, right?" "Yes, sir." Eduardo glanced inside the restaurant. Thoughtful. "Did you know she was promoted just 3 weeks ago to this location? Recommended by an investor. I came today for a ghost visit to see how the operation was running. And I must say, I was disappointed. Not in you." Eduardo opened the envelope and pulled out a piece of paper. "This is a formal warning letter. Filed yesterday. She reported you for insubordination, for interfering at a guest's table and compromising the refined atmosphere of the establishment." André lowered his eyes. That was it. He was getting fired. But then he heard the tear. Eduardo ripped the letter in half, then into quarters, and dropped the pieces in a nearby trash bin. "She didn't understand a thing about what we're trying to build here. Alta Vista isn't just expensive food and fancy plating. It's about experience, empathy, and humanity. And you showed that with a single gesture." André looked at him in disbelief. "Sir, I don't even know what to say." "Don't say anything yet. Just listen." Eduardo walked slowly through the empty dining room, his steps echoing. "How long have you worked here?" 2 years and 3 months. "Ever had a chance to move up?" "I took a basic culinary course. I've got a menu project. Brazilian dishes with a modern twist. But I never got to present it. Patricia says it's not my place to give ideas." Eduardo stopped, turned to him. "Well, now it is." From his inner pocket, he pulled out another envelope. Inside was a letter printed on company letterhead. "Starting Monday, you'll be promoted to host of this location. A leadership role on the floor. You'll earn 3 times your current salary. And more than that, I'm offering you a full scholarship to the Advanced International Culinary Program at Bernard Institute, where I studied." André staggered a step backward. "Sir, I don't have words. This is too much. Over a napkin?" Eduardo smiled. "It wasn't the napkin. It was what you did with it. You saw my daughter, not as a problem, not as a burden, as a child, and you treated her with humanity. Do you have any idea how rare that is in a world where everyone's trying to sell something? André felt his eyes fill with tears. I was just thinking of my sister. She's special too. Life's never been easy. I know what it's like when no one understands what you're feeling. Eduardo nodded silently, then extended his hand again. Then now it's your turn to be understood. Take this chance. But on one condition. What condition? Don't stop being the guy who folds napkins to comfort a child. Never trade that for a tight tie or a spreadsheet. André smiled. I promise. They said goodbye. Eduardo got into the car and left. André stood there for a few seconds, looking out at the street. He took a deep breath. For the first time in a long while, something felt different. It wasn't just a new role. It was a look in someone's eyes. Someone who saw real value in him. When he stepped inside to begin his shift, Patricia was waiting at the door. Early today? Think that'll save you from the warning I filed yesterday. André just smiled. Don't worry, Patricia. Today's going to be a good day. And he walked to the locker room, where he hung up his uniform. He looked at his simple badge, still labeled Waiter A. Ferreira. Soon it would say something else. But his essence, that he'd make sure to keep. On Monday, André arrived at the restaurant as usual, but the atmosphere already felt different. Patricia, normally haughty, was strangely quiet. She didn't bark any sharp orders or throw her usual condescending glances. There was tension in the air. His co-workers whispered and averted their eyes whenever he walked by. In the locker room, his old uniform had been replaced with a new one. The tag now read Host A. Ferreira. The fabric was thicker, the cut more refined, the color more subdued. André touched the material as if he couldn't believe it was real. He dressed slowly, staring at his reflection in the foggy metal locker mirror. For the first time, he felt like he was exactly where he belonged. Out on the floor, the movement was unusual. A group of people in suits chatted with Eduardo Montenegro, who was no longer the mysterious, unassuming man. He was the CEO, and he made sure everyone knew it. But even among the suits, his eyes were searching for someone. André, he called with a wide smile. All eyes turned. André walked over discreetly. Eduardo extended his hand in a firm shake and said loudly for all to hear, Ladies and gentlemen, this is André Ferreira, one of the most promising professionals I've ever met in our group. The soul of Alta Vista isn't in marble countertops. It's in the hands and minds of people like him. André was speechless. He swallowed hard. Eduardo then pulled him aside. André, I have a proposal that goes beyond promotion. More. He could barely process what had already happened. I spent the weekend thinking. What you did for Sophia made me reflect on what's missing from our restaurants. Humanity. We're serving $1,000 dishes, but forgetting to serve respect and warmth. I want to change that. And I want you with me on this project. André's eyes widened. Sir, I'm not sure I understand. Eduardo placed a tablet on the corner table and swiped through some images. Blueprints for new restaurants. More open spaces with welcoming areas for families with autistic children. Adapted menus. Training focused on empathy. I want to open a new location. A concept restaurant. Inclusive. Welcoming. Focused on excellence and soul. And I want you to be my partner in this idea. A minority partner, of course, but a partner. That means shared decisions, proportional profits, and a true leadership role. André sat down. He needed to breathe. Why me, sir? I don't have a degree. I don't have a name. But you have vision. You have heart. What many business people lack. You see people, not just customers. And you don't learn that in an MBA. Eduardo pulled up a preliminary contract on the screen. You bring your knowledge and your passion. I'll bring the investment and the structure. Let's make history, André. And Patricia? He asked, as if afraid of the manager's impending reaction. Eduardo gave a dry smile. She's been transferred to the industrial unit supply office, a place where spreadsheets matter more than empathy. She already signed. André looked at the contract. He felt his fingers tremble. This would change everything. Not just for him, but for his mother, his sister, and all the other waiters overlooked for making eye contact with customers instead of just serving plates. He signed. At the end of that day, as the dining room closed, André was alone, turning off lights. He looked toward one of the corner tables, where it had all started. For a moment, he saw little Sophia smiling, napkin in hand. He smiled back, even if she wasn't really there, because now that cloth flower had become something much greater, a doorway, and he had just stepped through it.